Hello and welcome to Floyd Models Kit View Time. Today we've got Airfix's latest release. This is the 1/48 scale Westland Sea King. So you can do this one as a an HAS1, HAS5 or an HU5. Now, to be honest with you, really lucky for this one. Airfix reached out for me and I was invited along to their press day and launch, which was at the historic helicopters in Chard, which is weird because I was born in Chard of all places. So it's not very far from me. It's around about 50 minutes up the road. If you ever get a chance, visit because it's great, especially if you're into Sea Kings, funnily enough. So this was the bit of the thing. I knew they were up to something. I knew a few months ago. And then obviously because the joint thing with, you know, historic helicopters, they've got a fleet of Sea Kings, privately owned. Got to be, isn't it? So anyway, really good day out. There is a full video all about it, about the launch of this one, and there's a separate video I've done as well from historic helicopters point of view, looking round and obviously 1-to-1 scale. The great thing about the launch for this one, to be honest with you, is that we got to look round the real things, and I mean properly crawl over as well, and you didn't have somebody looking over your shoulder. It's really nice. So that way I've got loads of great references so we can check them against the kit. But talking to the guys about this one, they are really happy with how it's come out, so I'm thinking they've done quite a good job on that one. But anyway, let's have a quick look. As you can see, lovely box art. So this is the HAS1 on here, the nice clean lines of it, as they were pointing out. And as I say, the thing with this kit, as you'll see all the way through, is they've taken it as VX666, which is this aircraft here, through its history to date. This Sea King is currently still flying and operational with a private company training search and rescue down in Portland. So this is a little bit different. If we get into the markings, you'll see about it. But the aircraft's affectionately known as Damien, hence the 666 designation. All right. So first thing up, the box is really solid. I mean, this is proper solid. This isn't going to go flattened or anything else like that. Seems to be their sort of new design. They're a lot more beefier and bulkier. Obviously, they're top opening boxes as well. And as you can see, this one is completely sealed. Which number did I get? Oh, look, I got number 10 of 40 for this one. So this is going to be out, I am told, mid next month. So you haven't got to wait ages for this. This isn't the usual sort of Airfix way of saying, oh, you've got to wait now till, well, whenever for it to come out. Oh no, this one is proper Tamiya-esque in their release, as in they had them there to show and everything, so that's great. So in the box we are greeted by, if I can get in the box, have I missed one? Sorry, I think we've missed one. Let me just, that's it, we're in. If I can get in here, as you can see, we are stuffed full of plastic, absolutely plastic full of it. The other nice thing as well, it's not in one giant bag, so it's in twin bags, separately done, obviously clear parts as well, so that's very nice indeed. So you can see she is an absolute beast. So for people talking about, well, we've got a Westland, we've got a Sea King, we've got obviously the Hasegawa kit. Don't forget, this Hasegawa kit is the Sikorsky version. This is the UK license built version from Westlands from back in the day. All right, so again, very nice. For people wanting to know, yes, it is all done in India. It's not done in the UK. Obviously, commercial reasons dictate that the actual it's cheaper, you know, let's face it, at the end of the day, to do it over in India than it is here. So in here we are greeted by a ton of stuff. So this is all the inlay ones for the markings, which have a nice look at those in a minute because there is some really nice ones. Okay, so instruction wise, this is the thing about this helicopter. You can do it throughout its entire life. There's everything in this kit to do it from its delivery date to present day. So how you go about it and how you want to display it is a little bit up to you, but obviously they have given you lots of options down in here. So for instance, depending on which version you're doing, as in the HAS1, the 5 and the HU5, depending on which holes you're going to be opening up, it looks very complex when you first look at this. And when I was flicking through the instructions yesterday, you know, again, it's one of those where luckily Airfix's instructions have come along massively over the last couple of years. So all these sections in red are the ones you're worried about. So again, just follow through with this and you'll be absolutely fine. All right. So again, there's lots of ones to do and it's all the prep work, and do all this first to get it out of the way. So that way you don't have to go around with a torch afterwards trying to find these holes because you forgot to open them up. But again, it is designated as 1, 5, you know, and obviously HU5s as well for doing it, for opening them up or anything you need to remove. All right. So it is very nicely laid out right the way through. Apart from that, we are greeted by a fully detailed interior. And again, I know a lot of people are going to say you're not going to see this one, but you're going to see everything, and it's up to the modeler then if he wants to pop it in, right the way down to the P-tube. Yes, that's what that is. It's not a microphone, kids. Don't blow in it. So yes, obviously you've got literally everything right the way through. And then depending on obviously which one you're doing, obviously if you're doing an anti-submarine warfare, you're going to have a lot more inside it versus the other ones. So again, fully detailed cockpit, obviously with the seating, obviously all the pedestals, the bits and pieces, instrument panels right the way through. Decals, obviously for the instrument panels, decals are done by Cartograph. We'll have a look at those in a minute, all right? But as you can see, some really, really nice stuff all the way through, detail-wise, all of this. So you've got the station, you've got the sonar station, all the various bits and pieces. And again, depending on which version you're doing, you've got modern and old, right the way through. You've got the seats all the way through on this one. And again, as you can see, there's a ton of detail here on the inside. Obviously, you've got quite a nice big loading door on the side. You will see a little bit down in there, but a lot of it you're not actually going to see. But as was pointed out, it is modular. You could actually show it separately. So again, a nice little touch with this one. All right. So again, going right the way through on here. Windows being fitted on from the inside, then we're in over the top as well, right the way into this one. Obviously, we don't get engine detail as such with this, but obviously we've got all the exhausts and intakes, as you might imagine, right the way through. All right. So as you can see, you've got a situation where you've got an internal and external for the actual interior sets. So that's quite nice with it. And then again, depending on which ones you're going to be doing, you're obviously going to be putting this in standard, and then we've got the sand filter box on there. We've got the thimble type notch, or obviously we've got the wide radar as well for the radars on the top of them, obviously depending on which versions you're doing. And again, some other little differences, small ones all the way through on this. So again, as you can see, it can be display gear up and down. So again, nice one for anyone planning on doing it in flight. You can do it that way as well. All right, all the way into this. And then obviously we're down here, obviously to the gears, obviously we've done tails, tail rotors, and it does have a full wing or folding tail right the way round, so you can have it open or closed. I've got some great references of those ones as well. All right, and then we got the glasswork, which, to be honest with you, I did have a word with Chris, the designer, about it and asked if he could have done it slightly different. The answer was no. So anyway, you have got to be very careful when you're gluing the clear parts in. Again, I would have liked it to have a little bit more meat on the bone, as I call it, so you've got a little bit more distance between the clear parts and everything else. So again, I don't know. It's one of those things. I would have preferred it if perhaps it had gone the entire nose section. It was a push on. Tooling costs, though, as goes through. What you do get, those two different versions of the clear parts going on the front here. One of them's got windscreen wipers on them fitted in. One hasn't, so you can put them on before or after if you wanted to. So if you don't want to mess around with alignments, obviously you're going to do it with them in. Personal choice on that one. You've got the filter box on the top, obviously the sand filter type system on the top of those ones, fitting that in there. Last of the clear parts going on, as you can imagine, right the way through. And then it's aerial time. So again, depending on which version you're doing, you're either going to have it quite clean or it's going to be covered in aerial. So this is version A and B, and obviously as time progressed and age went on, upgrades came through, more lumps and bumps and everything are added to it right the way up again to when you're getting up to the last of the models, where it's absolutely covered in external aerials for things like SATCOM and normal communications and navigation sets. So you've got all of those being fitted down in there just like that. All right. Winch, so it's got a fully detailed winch. It's got the FLIR camera as well for it as well, so if you want to fit that one to it, very nice indeed. And again, as you can see, doors open and close as we might expect right the way through. Tail rotor we spoke about already, you can have it as in the folded position or open. Rotor head, again, very, very difficult to try and detail something like this, purely because the amount of moving parts and the amount of small parts and cables and things. But again, scratch building, get the old lead wire out, things like that. You could do an absolute dream job on this because it's pretty much there. And you have got the option folded blades, or you can have them open as well. All right. So again, and there it is. Again, during the presentation, they were talking about obviously the research and the bits and pieces. There is a video with that all on. So if you want to know a little bit more about the development of the kit, I will link it down below so you can see all of that as well. So when it comes to marking options, I'll try and work this out now in order of life. So it's going to be, you've got to start with, you've got this one here from down my local neck of the woods down at Coldrose in 1970. So again, this is the oldest one in the fleet. So as you say, that's when she was sort of new to the fleet and all the rest of it. So again, if you wanted to do something in the old, navy blue, you could do it just like that. Then I've got to get the dates right on this. I think this is correct. We were over to 1988, and obviously they switched over then to the sort of the dark sea grey colours right the way over it. So again, the more modern look, and again the rescue thing. So obviously we've got the rotor one of the rotors in the yellow, things like that, all the way through. All right, so that's that. Then we come up to probably the most famous one of all for Navy helicopters, especially if you're in my part of the world. You would have seen this going around all the time. Very distinctive, obviously, with the ace of clubs. So again, really, really nice. And remember, this is all the same aircraft throughout its entire life. So all of these are XV666. All right, which is known as Damien. So as you can see, right the way through. So again, is very nice with the old ace of clubs down in there like that from 1995. And then bring you Brang up to date because she is operational to this day. She's down in Portland in Dorset, being used for search and rescue training, as you can see as well. So again, fully up to date. And to be honest, it's really nice in that orange. It was lovely to see it built up with all the different colour schemes. And again, very, very nice indeed. So again, if you want to do it, it's more of a modern one. You've got that option as well. And then don't forget, you've got lots of options if you wanted to, because as I say, I'm sure the aftermarket people are going to be all over this very much like a rash, and they're going to be coming along with all the aftermarket goodies for it, and then obviously lots of decals as well. Speaking of which, we have the decals, which are beautiful decals done by Cartograph. So again, they haven't skimped on the decals, which is really nice. And again, they've got fantastic registry, looking really nice. Instrument ones actually don't look too bad at all, so that's quite nice. And we've got the ones for the dials and the various bits and pieces. To be honest, there's a lot of raised detail on the actual switchology one over here. So yeah, you could trim them off, I suppose, and do them, but I think a dry brush would be a lot easier. And again, some very nice touches. Things like the radar scope. So obviously radar scope off in the grey or on with the green if you wanted to do it that way. And again, we've got all the different bits and pieces down in here for all the markings, as you can see, right the way through. So some really nice decals with that particular kit. Right, over to the good bit, the plastic. And I know what you're all waiting for, so we'll start with it, the fuselage. Again, jumbo bags. Let's just say that it's cheaper to do it this way than it is to do small bags, but hey ho. Right, okay. Here we go then. So, as you can see, really very, very nice sprues straight off the bat. All right. But the thing is, it's when you get in a little bit closer, and you often hear me talk about, obviously, how you like to see manufacturers evolve and things going along. But look at the riveting on this. Now, again, I have to agree with said Airfix about this. A lot of people are going to say, but don't forget they're all raised, which is totally correct. They are raised. But from a scale point of view, raised rivets of this scale just look awful. You know, they just don't work. Not when you've got this many. If you've got a few on there, absolutely no problem at all. But when they are all literally raised rivets, then it's a little bit of a pain. And also from my point of view, if you've got to do any cleanup work, if you've got to come in here with any sort of sanding or filling or anything else like that, which hopefully we won't, but obviously you've got to put back in raised rivets after it. So I think from a weathering point of view, a buildability point of view and everything, recessed rivets are the right way to go, because I just think it makes it look a little bit easier. I know the purists out there are going to hate that, but obviously it's just my opinion and yours will be different. But again, really, really nice. You can see they were talking about in the detail down in here, and I want to point this out because it's actually very, very nicely done. Chris, the designer for this, was talking about obviously lapping panels, because panels are lapped. They're not butt joint, they're lapped over. So like he was saying, down in here, you've technically got 4 panels, or 5 if you include this one here, which are all overlapping. So again, it's very, very clever because you've got the riveting detail all here and they're lapping in the correct way. So obviously you're starting, if you like, number 1 is down in here, number 2, number 3 goes on, and then number 4 on the top. And again, it's just getting the geometries of all of those right and everything else, which is very, very nice. Good attention to detail. And again, right the way through. And I'm going to say every rivet isn't on here, but all the rivets that matter are, if that makes sense. Because again, I agree what they were saying. If you was to put every rivet on this, it would look awful. It would just, yeah, just be covered in a million rivets. Also, the thing is, and one thing I know a lot of people will pick out with this, the Sea King fleet, because it was continuously upgraded and strengthened in some areas, extra rivets, extra sort of, you know, lap over areas, bits of metal were added right the way over these. So again, depending on which one you're doing in which era, and bearing in mind you're looking at something there with a 30-year history, you've got to pick an area and go for it. So Airfix have basically done a good start point, and if you wanted to hyper detail it, as I would call it, you can do by adding all the extra little bits as well. But again, incredibly nice complex shapes. So obviously one of the big differences over here is you've got the ones with the bulges on the side. That's a major difference between this and the obviously Sikorsky version, the SH3. So again, different things for the Westland one, different engines, things like that. Again, you have got raised detail. Don't think this is just all totally recessed. Access panels and things like that have got raised details. There's raised bits all over this one, all the way through. All right. So again, it has got raised stuff in amongst this as well. All right. But again, I think, you know, from a point of view of Airfix don't do riveting, they've done a really good job on that because it looks pretty spot on to me. Very, very nice indeed. So again, there's lots of other nice bits. We've got texture down in here on the seats for the back, and down in front here, we've got some of the bits and pieces for the sand filters. Again, for all the ones like me, you'll know. In fact, I've got some still. I've got the resin ones because that was the only way you could do it and do a conversion job on the old Hasegawa kit, which I have here, the SH3, and which is kit number PT1. And having to do a full conversion to make it into a Westland helicopter. So now we don't have to anymore, thank God. But again, sand filters down in here, raised detail, very, very nice, sharp, crisp, you know, actually proper sharp detail on that one. There's no interiors because obviously it's got a fully interior done separately, so we don't have to worry about that. But there is lots of holes to open up. And again, looking at this kit straight off the bat, when you look at it, you can see quite clearly that there's actually other versions coming down the line. So hopefully we'll see the RAF one in the near future, and then hopefully we'll see a Jungly as well. Okay, so interior-wise, this is where we come into it. And again, having crawled around one all day yesterday, you can see the attention to detail in some of the areas. So the floor, for instance, you know, all the access panels down to the floor. Obviously, we've got the electronics one down the back here. It's got raised detail all around it for all the rivet heads, and all the paneling down in here is raised. So again, external is, because of the amount of rivets, it just wouldn't work. But down in here, this is all raised rivets on the floor. So again, really, very nice detail. And up here in the cockpit, so that's all raised details. Very, very nice indeed. Internals to the cabin. Again, this is one of those ones where, you know, soundproofing alike and all the rest of it. And again, complexities for this one denote that we've actually got to do it from the inside. So we have got a little bit of ejector pins down in here and all the rest of it. But again, they're big, they're flat, they're quite easy to deal with. So again, it's just because trying to get it out of the mold. All right. But again, looking very, very nice indeed. And then over on here, we've got, say, some of the details. We've got plumbing onto the bulkheads. We've got the doors, both of them. So again, I assume we've got two types of door, open and closed fully. We've got the wheels and everything down in here as well. So it's not weight on wheels, but depending on which way you'll be doing it in flight. There's the open one, boarding steps all the way through, top half or bottom half of the door, top half of the door for the open angles, things like that. And this little guy down in here is the spine part that's going to run down the roof with the access areas down into there. So really, as you say, it's just this thing about some ejector pins in here, a little bit nasty, but honestly, I don't know how you get around it. Again, we've got the little padding down to the rear. It's got a little bit of texture into that one as well. Again, maybe just a little weak spot because the little fire extinguisher thing up here is a little bit softly molded. But apart from that, very, very nice indeed. Then, let's pop these here before they all go crashing. And then, tell you what, we'll do this one next. Then we can do the other one. Okay. So we've got clear parts to look at last. We've got some separate little bits down in here. So we do it like this. All right, so down in here you can see we've got the bottom hull, if you like, being boat shaped, but we've got the bottom of the fuselage, and obviously we've got some of the other little clues that are going to give you that we've got other versions coming down the line. All right, and again, I'm not going to point all those out because I'm sure people know a lot more than I do. All right, but generally, as you can see, we've got various bits and pieces down in here. I think if we start over here at the top, first clue is obviously got two instrument panels. All right, so we may be seeing another version coming down the line. We've got obviously all the seats, instrument panel combing, all the small details for the seats as well, right the way through. They're all separately molded. We've got the hoist equipment, overheads, all the different bits and pieces you can see down in here. We've got that bigger, thick radar on the top, the later one. And then obviously you've got the hull. And again, beautiful details, all recessed, but it has got some raised stuff around it as well, depending on. And again, really very, very nicely done. Good, sharp, clean details. Again, the famous star tail, as we call it. So again, we've got that one down in there. And then obviously we've got the front, depending on which one you're doing with lumps and bumps as well. So obviously lumpy bumpy one, non-lumpy bumpy one. One of the bulkheads, again, a little bit of texture in that as well, as you can see. That's a very, very close ejector pin though. There's an ejector pin just waiting to come through here. And again, it's quite a deep one on this side, but it's not going to be seen, so I won't worry about it. It's just close. All right. And then over here, we've got this pole here, which is technically the spine running down with the actual tail rotor shaft in that as well. So very, very nice. And again, on the blind side, really, really good. The ejector pins are all pretty darn fine. None of them are massively excessively deep. They're all tucked out of the way as well, which is quite nice. So yeah, no, that's all very, very good indeed. Okay, so we've got this little guy just down in here again with some of the equipment. Again, depending on different eras and things, obviously this will be somewhat different. So we've got obviously the radar operators station and the various parts down in here. We've obviously got the FLIR cameras, all the various lumps and bumps down in here for the later version. All right, very nice. And then we can sort of move back over to here to some more of the fuselage. We've got the sponsons, we've got the thimble radar down in here, we've got the various parts. So again, really very, very nice. So I'm taking this is the flotation areas for the main gear coming down onto these. All right, we've got the little bits that then join onto the big bits. And again, the shape of those is really, really nicely done. We've got raised detail down in here for the bags, the inflation bags on there, raised panels on this. We've got a moulded in light, which actually is probably not a bad thing. All right, down in there. Very, very nicely done indeed. And again, different stations. So we've got the big radar down in here, or obviously different ones for different times as well. Different spine. Front end, obviously that famous barrel shape. Various things again. And then up here, we've actually got the bottom part of the radar with the shaft going forward. And then obviously on the top, right the way through. So again, looking very, very nice indeed. So that's sprue E. Again, all the locating tabs are all very nice. They're squared out. So yeah. Okay, last up we have the rotors, which, to be honest with you, there was a little bit of a discussion on this. So with the group I was with, hello YouTube land. All right, so again, we'll look at rotors last because there's a little bit of a chat about those. But as you can see, really very, very nice. So we've got more seating down in here, more of the bulkheads, all the sort of, you know, the various bits on here. But we've got some nice stuff going on at the top. But over here, as you can see, we've got some very, very nice details. Good, clean, sharp. We've got the actual anti-torque pedals, to give them their proper name. We've got panels, the various things. We've got the seats. We've got the overhead panel here with the engine governors and various things. We've got various things. The tail, again, really, really nice. As I say, some of it, it's like, this is raised detail down in here is incredibly sharp and crisp. It's very, very nice indeed for the tail. Again, another boat hole, different versions, as we were saying. This is the nice bit. So this is the mesh for the gear for the tail brake. So obviously you've got male and female sides, how it goes together. It always amazes me, something flying around so quick, and that's literally it. And it's quite important on a helicopter to have a tail rotor, but it never looks that meaty considering what it is, but I'm sure it's made of a very, very strong alloy. All right, intakes, got turbine blades there at the front, very nice. Rotor head area, if you like, with the cooling vanes and the various things. Again, this panel here has got raised details on it, so it's actually got the raised fasteners all the way through. That's really nice. Engine sort of cowlings on the top here, back plates, and again, different versions, different things. Got the wide mouth over here as well on the intakes, and again, as I say, the clues in other versions into this as well. So very, very nice, and again, good, clean, crisp. And for once, unless you guys have spotted it at home and I haven't, it doesn't look like I've got a short shot, which is very good because I'm jinxed. Okay, right, the blades. So as you can see down in here, we have got blades, lots of blades. Now the thing with this kit, it has a full wing fold or rotor fold. It's a rotary wing, just to get the straight. One thing that was mentioned down in here in the briefing was about that, has it got a situation where you can have rotor sag? And I don't know how well you can see it, but you can see maybe that these are sagging on the sprues as it is. These are very, very thin. All right, so they are pointing out, and when you hold it like this, you can see it. They are sagging on the sprue already. I'll tell you what, we'll whip one off to show. All right, just come in here. We'll just pop one off. Now, obviously, there's not a great deal of sag on this, and I can't show you because it's not on the overhead, but you can probably see they are very, very flexible. So they do sag and they do move quite a bit, but they are incredibly thin. We've got a nice thin panel line going right the way down them. All right, so that's actually really, really nice indeed. And again, they are incredibly thin and very, very flexible. So I'm sure if you wanted to put a little bit more sag on it, I'll bung it over your thigh and give it a bit of bending, and it will be absolutely fine. Again, same thing, if you want to do it in flight, you could just give it a slight lift to it, just a little bit, and you'll be good. So again, it's one of those areas. So the big thing is you've got a lot of the gear work up here at the top, tail, and then obviously you've got the other tail as well. So this one, instead of having the actual 5, has got the 6 on it. Again, there you go, people. You can see other versions coming down the line here. All right. Main rotor head, though, it always has 5 with the Sea King. So this is in the open position. So that's with them all unfolded. But obviously we've got another version with it folded as well, with obviously the top of the radome, things like that. So the great thing is you've got 10 blades here. So you can actually make up 2 rotor heads in theory. And if you did it as a soft fit to just pop the top cap off, you could have one folded, you can have one open as well. There is differences between them. Again, this is the sharp-eyed amongst you. We've got the rounded off blades down in here, and we've got the square ones down in here. So it's the older and the newer type blades onto it. But I'm just thinking, for the uninitiated, you could probably do a little bit of work on these and change them over. And in that way, you could actually do it both and have it as a loose fit. Again, I haven't built it, so I can't swear to that, but generally that's what I'm thinking. Again, lumps and bumps down in here at the bottom. We've got the winch as well. We've got obviously your handles, your various bits and pieces. We've got aerials and stuff like that down at the front. We've got the pitot tubes up here at the top and other various ones. We've got the HF aerial hangers onto the side, all of those areas. So again, this kit's got plenty of options, I think. Okay, last up is the clear parts. My only slight bone of contention. Chris didn't want to listen to me. So, right, they are absolutely crystal clear. Fantastic, beautifully clear, no problem with mine whatsoever. Again, it's all recessed work onto these. So again, really nice. The actual bulges for the windows, for the observers on the rear. One's down the back of the Sea King, absolutely fantastic, clear parts, so forth and so on. One thing you'll probably notice down in here, you do get 2 types of front windscreen. So we've got it with wipers on, with wipers off, which I think Pranjit might have had something to do with this, because it's something we discussed with them with obviously on the Buccaneer. And I think it's a really nice touch. So that way you can just do it yourself. And to be honest, again, this is another cost that's passed on by just doing something like this. They've got a tool 2 of them. And then obviously this is taking up runner space as well. So again, for people who think, oh, all the sort of whiners out there, think of the extra cost it does just to give you wipers on and off. You know, so again, it's a great little touch for the modeler. And if you ever screw it up, you've got a second chance at this. So again, very, very nice. Good job on that one as well. My bugbear is with this kit, as you've probably guessed, I have a few, but there's not a lot of meat. It's not so bad up here, for instance, because we've got a little bit of framework here. So your glue can go in there, no problem at all. Technically, you have a tint on the top as well. You'll hide a little bit of it. There's not a lot of meat on the front. So if you're gluing this and it goes slightly awry, you're in trouble, all right? Also on here, on the side ones, there's not a great deal of meat on these anywhere around this to make it an easy fit. I think if it was me, I would have given you a little bit more meat around here, taken it to the next panel line, so that way it's just easier to attach. If you did have a problem with fitments, if you did need to get the filler out, I'm assured it's a perfect fit. But I haven't built it yet, so I can't say. But I just would like a little bit of more material round here, or with all the effort that they took to do 2, and the cost involved of doing 2, could we not have perhaps had it more of a plug-in fit on the front? So to do it is in one complete curved one round, so we don't have seams joining it on these really, really delicate areas. Because again, there's not a lot of meat between these top ones here, and as they're going to go on here. So it's one of those ones where I think I would prefer to have the extra attention of money into one piece at the front, which would have been more of a plug-in like that, even if it is a separate, you know, part. But again, it's cost. I know I've spoken to him about it. There's a certain cost doing a part like that, the complexities of it, and obviously things done to a price. So yeah, and that's the big thing with this kit. One thing that really surprised me throughout the entire, well, two things surprised me. One is it's going to be available in technically around about 3 weeks time, which is amazing. All right. For it to be literally didn't know anything about it to here it is within under a month. So that's quite something. But also the thing is the price. So the price of it is basically £54.99. So it's 55 quid for what you've seen is a lot of plastic. That's a completely stuffed box. There's a lot of tooling into that one. There's a lot of engineering into it. If you watch my little briefing onto this one, as you say, it's been in development quite a while. They've been working on this basically a year and everything and getting it right the way through and with the tooling and the various bits with it. So it is great to see a kit come down the line, come out and be really, really good. And to be honest with you, my only small gripe with it is those clear parts, the way that they're going to attach. Hopefully if they're perfect, we won't have a problem because it will hardly take any glue. But if there's any type of issues with it, then it's going to be a little bit of a problem getting those on. Generally, though, really, really am excited. I'm excited for the future for this kit as well. As you've probably seen, we've got an RAF version coming down the line. We've probably got a jungly in there as well. So I'm expecting to see over the next couple of years, we'll see those go. But what's more important is for the first time in a very long time, we've got a bang up-to-date Sea King. But also, I'm not going to compare two. I'm not even going to get the other one out of my stash because this is the Westland Sea King. It's a completely different animal right the way through. It's got lumps and bumps all over it that you don't actually find on that one. And also, that's a very, very old SH3, where obviously this one takes you bang up to date. So there's so many lumps and bumps onto this one. I'm sure I said before the aftermarket people are going to jump on this. Let's face it, there's going to be the crow's nest version of this one going out with a radar bag on the side. I can imagine lots of other ones coming down the line with it because this kit is a great jump off point. So all we really need now is, you know, a mast set because we really need some of those, you know, and perhaps a little bit of photo etch on it just to liven it up and we'll have something looking really, really spot on. Anyway, there you go. There you have it. The 1/48 scale Airfix Westland Sea King Mark HAS1, HAS5 and HU5.